Welcome to the Beyond Divorce, Embracing Change podcast. My name is Michael Flores, and I will be your host while we explore the complex journey of divorce with empathy, insight, and practical knowledge. Whether you're contemplating separation, in a divorce, or looking for support post-divorce, our episodes provide expert guidance, stories, and strategies to help you through every step of the process. We are actual therapists, helping clients who sit on our couches every day through their difficulties of divorce. You are not alone. Join us as we delve in and find solutions that give you hope again. We're glad you're here.
This podcast is not intended to replace legal or personal help. This podcast is for informational purposes only.
Well, first off, I want to say thank you to all you listeners that have jumped in and listened. If you have not subscribed to our podcast, I don't know what you're waiting for. Please feel free to subscribe. Give us a rating. If you find it helpful, please let us know. Send us your questions. Interact with us. Let us become more of a help to those of you that are looking for it. Some people have come in and are receiving services from us directly, which means we get to work with you in real time on the stuff that you're dealing with personally. So however we can help and serve, we want to find a way to do that for you, find a way to be helpful. So we just ask that you all get in here. I'm excited to have you, Dr. Robinson.
I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Well, I know. You seem to really like the podcast.
I love the podcast.
Well, this is actually a farewell episode for you, Dr. Robinson.
It is a see you later episode.
There you go. Like a legit see you later?
Like a legit see you later.
Okay.
Yeah.
I understand.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, we here at Brighter Possibilities are going to miss you immensely.
Absolutely.
A lot of people probably, well, I think they've listened to you speak, but I will say the level of intelligence and the way that you've connected with the staff, the way that you've offered your gift of serving has just been a blessing to all the individuals that have been a part of it. And we are going to miss that immensely.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So you being here and doing this episode with us, yeah, it's the old saying, it's a bittersweet.
Absolutely.
You know? So
I would agree.
I think I just want to pick your brain today really on some of the best things you can offer our listeners. And on this particular topic, since it is a divorce podcast, a Beyond Divorce and Embracing Change podcast.
Yeah.
I want to ask you, what is some advice that you want families to remember or think about as they go through divorce?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm going to answer that question.
Okay. I know you will.
But before I do, I want to say that I'm only as good or as great as I am because of the people who are around me. Iron sharpens iron.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of sharp irons in the pot that is called Brighter Possibilities. And so I had to contemplate a question in this transition, which was, what will I miss the most about leaving Brighter Possibilities?
Yeah.
Other than the fabulous view that I have in my office.
Yeah, you got a good couple of windows in there.
I mean, it's a view of the river, and then our office suite has a wonderful view of downtown Fort Worth, which is a great city, by the way. I will miss the collaboration that I have with my current coworkers, my current colleagues. I will miss the daily collaboration because I don't think that the collaboration will end. It just won't be as intense and as frequent,
right,
as it is now. I will miss the front office staff, the back office staff that work so diligently to help us be successful. We're not successful on our own. And so I want to say that this is a great group and a great opportunity to serve and do what we do.
So you're basically saying you're not leaving because of us.
I am not leaving because of you.
I just threw you right on the spot, didn't
I am not leaving because of you.
No, I know. And you, one thing that you do extremely well, Jacobie, and I have to say that I've been saying this on the podcast too, is transparency. Is you've always been very transparent with us about the things you love, the things that are helpful to you, your plans, your goals.
Absolutely.
And it's made my job as a director much easier on how to help you.
Absolutely. And I appreciate that.
How to help others. And I thank you for that, because I'm only as good as the team that we create around us also, right? It's like a good visual of a good team, I think, is the people in those rowboats.
Yeah.
With those paddles, how they all move so seamlessly,
yeah.
right? But there's someone in charge then there.
Absolutely.
In that boat.
Absolutely.
But they all move together.
You know, as you mentioned that, and I got to get back to your question.
Oh, yes, sir.
But as you mentioned that, recently I was in a men's conference.
Okay.
And the speaker made a statement along the lines of what you're saying.
Really?
He talked about a trip that he had taken. I don't remember the country. I don't remember the waters that they were in, but they were all in rowboats. And it was dark. And the leader of the boat that was guiding the tour said to the participants, "You will not row in front of me. You will not row beside me. You will row behind me." And the speaker was like, okay, all right, we got a leader here. And he said once they began to navigate through the darkness, he was so glad that he followed the instruction of the leader, because the leader was the only one who had the light on his head, and he was the only one who was familiar with the territory about where they were going.
Wow.
Right.
That goes back to Christ being the light.
Absolutely.
Who are we following here?
Who are we following here? And that is a sentiment as to why I know that this transition will be successful for both of us, because I believe you follow the light of Jesus.
Mm.
I also follow the light of Jesus, and we know that this is a calling. So while it is painful for you and I to have this separation, if you will, I think in the end, it will not be a pain without gain.
Oh, yeah. No doubt. No doubt. And I know that the way that you've served and continue to serve, that you will make that difference with the people you're serving in a different capacity.
Absolutely.
So I know that for sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So what do you want to tell these families that are going through divorce? What do you want to leave them with?
Yeah, I want them to know that that as devastating as divorce can be, and in some instances as freeing as divorce can be, you know, I think that, you know, me being a person who is an advocate for marriage, you know, and I think I said in the first podcast when we first opened it up, I said I am not pro-divorce.
You did say that.
You know, I am pro-peace, I'm pro-joy, I'm pro-happiness, right? And so I think in this state, in this culture, in this world that we live in, divorces happen. Other things happen that we prefer not to happen. People get sick.
Right.
People lose their jobs. Companies fail. You know, all these horrible things happen. And what I want someone who's going through divorce to know is that thing happening, this divorce happening, does not have to define your life. It does not have to define who you are. It does not have to define how you choose to see yourself and present yourself to the rest of the world. How do you show up to your children in the face of this divorce? How do you show up on your job, in your career, in the face of this divorce? How do you show up to your community? How do you choose to present yourself in the face of this divorce?
Yeah.
Do you lead with, "Hi, my name is Jacobie, I'm divorced"?
Well, that wouldn't be true.
Right? It wouldn't be true.
No. Yeah.
You know, but, you know.
It's like, does it become part of your identity?
It doesn't become part of your identity. Your identity is beyond the divorce.
Did you just plug in the name of this podcast?
I did, intentionally.
I know you did. So leaving people with, you know, don't let the tragedy,
yes,
or the newness,
or even the triumph,
of
the divorce,
change, right?
Yeah,
be your identity.
Yeah. Paul said it this way. I think it was Paul who said it. He said, and I'm going to have to paraphrase because I love the way he says it.
Well, he's amazing.
I know in the Old Testament, in the New Testament, but in
part of the Acts, right?
Right, in the King James Version.
Yeah.
Well, no, this is one of the letters. I'm going to say it's one of the letters to the Thessalonians that he says this to, I think. So all you theologians and scholars, Bible scholars, you can correct me on this. I stand to be corrected.
They're going to DM us, though. It's me. I found it. But Paul said it.
But Paul said it.
What'd he say?
And basically what he said is, I forget those things which are behind. He says, because I have yet to apprehend what's ahead. So I'm going to press towards the mark of the prize of the higher calling, first of all, which is in Christ Jesus. And this is the issue that gets in the way with a lot of people when it comes to divorce. Because in our faith, in our tradition of Christianity, we believe that God does not like divorce. And I get that. I understand that. I think Scripture is clear. Even when Jesus talks about it, he said it was not so. But because, and look at what Scripture says. It says, because of the hardness of men, he permitted Moses to allow there to be a certificate of divorcement. And when you unpack that passage of Scripture a little bit more and you go a little bit deeper, it goes deeper than just because of the hardness of men. It goes to the point of the fallen state of this world. We are all subject to the fallen state of this world, and we're impacted by it. But that's the beauty of the cross. That's the beauty of Jesus. He redeems us from that fallen state.
Yeah, and in one of the questions I was going to ask you here is common mistakes that parents make. Do you suppose that the common mistake that parents are making based on that statement is they harden their heart?
Oh, absolutely. I would say absolutely. They build a grudge, right? And so whenever I think of the term hardened heart and I think about the Bible, my mind always goes back to Pharaoh.
Okay.
Because that's typically when we hear a hard heart, and we also hear it when transformation takes place, and Scripture says that God will replace our hard heart, our heart of stone, with a heart of flesh, which is a heart that's flexible and pliable, right?
Yeah.
And so divorce has the potential to create hard hearts of stone, where they're unforgiving. And parents will struggle to recognize that their hard heart has a negative impact on their children.
So is that something you want parents to understand?
I want parents to understand that. And I need to go a little round deeper.
Okay, go ahead.
Because a hard heart having a negative impact on the child is hard to discern when the child is loving the parent with the hard heart so well.
What does that mean?
What that means is I'm loving my parent with the hard heart because I feel like that's what they need. They need for me to be mad at the other parent as well.
Oh, jeez. Which isn't love.
Which isn't love. I had an experience recently where slowly we're unraveling the enmeshment and codependency that occurs in divorce between a child and a parent with a hard heart. And what the situation was is that the kid did not want to go visit dad during the weekend that the kid was supposed to go visit. And so so we're working towards what's in the way of that, what's really in the way. And the thing that the kid identified that was in the way was past experiences. And so the dad was saying, those experiences were not acceptable. They were not okay.
Meaning what?
Meaning, I'm sorry. I should not have done that.
Oh, okay. He was basically saying it shouldn't have happened. Okay.
And I need for you to see the change that has occurred.
Yeah.
And
So see me for who I am, not for what I did.
Not for what I did.
Mm.
And he said, and your sibling, I won't say whether it was a brother or a sister, but your sibling is coming, and your sibling knows the difference. And I would like for you to experience the difference. Now, this is what the kid said. The kid said, well, I have to hold you accountable. And so my therapeutic response was that right there. And I said, yeah, I think accountability has a role. I said, but I wonder if it's your role.
Making them question, like, accountability has its place, but is it your place to...
Yeah. And I think that that's what has happened, is that a lot of times when parents get hard hearts, they change the role of their children.
Wow. That's one of the challenges, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
And then there's this yearning or craving for justice.
Absolutely.
And people define... You ever had to define justice before?
Oh, absolutely. And I think people's identity or idea of justice is eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth.
I know where that came from.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is where it challenges. This is why I like the Sermon on the Mount, where Jesus addresses that. Mm-hmm. Because basically what Jesus is saying is that even if you do eye for an eye and tooth for a tooth, it doesn't satisfy. I mean, when you think about people who are victims of crimes, people who have lost loved ones to senseless murders, and let's just say that the perpetrator faces the death penalty and they die, those people will walk away, many of them will walk away and say, yeah, justice was served, but my heart still hurts.
Yeah, they do. We've talked to people like that before.
Yeah. It's like, my son didn't come back, or my daughter didn't come back, So now it's just 2 dead people in the world. Well, of course, more, but justice really doesn't bring satisfaction.
Jacobie, I'll tell a story real quick. I saw, I didn't see it live. I got to watch kind of the recap. And this lady's son was murdered by this guy. And this guy was being, they had his hearing and everything else. And the mom wanted to speak. Sure. The mom of the deceased child. They already, confirmed he was guilty, this guy that killed this other kid. And the mom goes on the stand and they're just letting her talk. And she said, you may deserve whatever finding they find on what should happen to you.
Punishment,
you may deserve whatever the punishment is. But that punishment doesn't change what's ultimately happened. And I'll never get my son back. Mm. And so I would rather take the approach of saying to you the way I trained my son, which is, I'd rather embrace you and say, I forgive you.
Mm-hmm.
And as hard as that is for me to say, knowing I will never have my son on earth again.
Sure.
I want you to know that I forgive you.
Yeah.
And I want you to find peace in yourself.
Absolutely.
And the man sitting there, he's crying at this point. He just couldn't believe that this woman could forgive him for what he had done.
Right.
So this dude gets out, like on parole, and he knocks on her door. Now you're thinking maybe he's going to do something to the woman, right? Well, he knocks on the door, and he looks at the woman and he says, I can never give back to you what I took. And so I'm asking you to take me as your son. He wanted this woman to basically adopt. He had his own mother, of course, but become like an adoptive mom to him. And he says, and I want to do what your son would have done. Like, he would mow her grass and he would do things like her son would do for her. And she would have him over for Thanksgiving. This is the man that killed her son. He would have Thanksgiving with him. He'd come over, and they developed this relationship that's unfathomable for most of us.
Absolutely.
And I'm sitting here going, there's a place for grace.
Right.
And there's a place for forgiveness. And I think it starts grace, and then grace leads to forgiveness. And then forgiveness is the end-all, be-all of, you may not deserve this, but I'm giving to you anyway.
So as you tell that story, and I've heard one other story, maybe 2 other stories very similar to that, not exactly the same, but similar, where there's forgiveness and there's grace that has taken place, right? When you tell that story, the thing that comes to mind is all of the encounters that I've had where people are wanting to set these hard boundaries with their parents.
In divorce, you mean?
In divorce,
Mm-hmm.
or when they're struggling with forgiveness. See, like this is very unique because these are strangers. This woman and this man, they're strangers. They don't know each other, right?
She didn't know him at all. All she knew is that he killed her son.
He killed her son.
That's it.
You know, it gets real different when this is the person that birthed you. This is the person that raised you. This is the person that cultivated a relationship with you, that taught you something. Maybe not everything you know, but they taught you something. Whether they intentionally taught it to you, set you down and lectured you, or whether they taught you by example of how they lived and what they did. They sowed some sort of seed into your heart, into your life. And when they break the trust, violate the confidence of the relationship, it is very difficult for them to heal.
Wow.
And one question that was posed to me one time was, when is it okay to shut your parents out of your life?
Ooh, I want to hear this one.
And I thought, why would you want to do that? I said, what's the motivation behind the question? Before I answer it, what's the motivation behind the question? And the story just goes on and on and on about what the parent did. I said, it sounds like to me you're trying to punish your parent. Doesn't sound like to me that you're trying to heal. Oh, but I am trying to heal. And I said, well, how is the punishment healing?
How's punishing them healing you?
Yes, exactly.
Did they answer?
They struggled with the answer.
Oh, yeah, I bet.
They struggled with the answer. And I said, the reality of it is, I said, if the parent is continuing to hurt you, now these are adults, but if the parent is continuing to hurt you, yes, it is appropriate to set boundaries. I said.
But what are boundaries?
Yeah. So boundaries, and this is the thing about boundaries. You know, I hear people say all the time, like, they just keep violating my boundaries. I was like, because they're not theirs. Like, of course they're going to violate your boundaries because they're not their boundaries. Boundaries are for you. Boundaries are for you.
We're going to miss you, Dr. Robinson.
Look here. You can put a no trespassing sign up all day long.
No trespassing. It's up. That's my boundary. Don't trespass.
Yeah, you can put a no trespassing sign up all day long. It does not stop people from crossing the fence. Because if they see something over there that they want, the first time, and I'm going to share the story, the first time I ever saw a no trespassing sign, I had no idea what it was. I didn't know what it meant. I was a little kid. It was, I was in the country. My grandfather owned, we lived in the country. He had a house on 4 acres. And then across the street, he had 113 acres.
Oh, wow.
Right. And so there was a little lane down the road that we used to use to go up the lane. We used to call it up the lane, but they called it Murphy's Lane. And where my grandfather's property was, across the street was another gentleman, Chad Harrell. His name just came to mind like that. Owned the property across the street on the lane. And Chad Harrell had a gate. And on that gate, it said no trespassing. And so, and we used to go over there all the time. He had cows. He had a lake, a little pond.
Yeah.
And we used to just go over there and play because his field was just kind of wide open, you know. And just sometimes you get tired of the field you're playing in and you want to go play in somebody else's field. And so one day, I said, what does that mean? No trespassing. And I was with my grandfather. He says, it means you can't go over there. I said, oh. I said, I guess we're breaking the law because we go over there all the time. And then this is what he said to me. Because my cousin, well, he didn't say it. My cousin said it. He said, it's okay because we've had permission. We talked to him. He already said it's okay for us to go over there. And this was the thing. Chad Harrell made a decision about who could come in and who couldn't. So the no trespassing sign wasn't really for me and to keep everybody out. It was really for Chad Harrell to manage.
To decide who could come in.
To decide who can come in.
Wow.
And so this is the thing. Like, I never saw Chad Harrell come across the street. Every time I saw Chad Harrell, he was going inside his property, managing his property, managing what was on the other side of the no trespassing sign.
A boundary is a place you put within yourself.
Absolutely.
It's a rule you give yourself. Like if I say one of my boundaries is I don't let people yell at me, what you're really saying is when people choose to yell, I decide to stop the conversation. I stop me from conversing. That's a boundary.
Absolutely.
Not you tell them you're not respecting my boundary because you're yelling at me. That's
Absolutely.
not a boundary. That's a request.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So now I go back to forgive us our trespasses.
Mm.
Forgive us for when we went to the other side that we weren't supposed to go to.
Absolutely.
As we forgive those
who trespass against us.
Bingo.
Absolutely.
That's good.
Absolutely.
Well, let's get into that.
And the reality of it is these boundaries are really designed to bring awareness.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because boundaries...
Should divorced families have boundaries?
Absolutely they should. They should, but they should be clearly defined. They should be...
a boundary should be how to let someone in versus how to keep them out. Yeah,
because I'm looking out the window right now, right? And we have these boundaries that we're looking at. All the boundaries really do is just to mark and guide how to get into that parking lot across the street. Because at the end of the day, I'm looking at these two trucks. One is a Tundra, one is a GMC Sierra. Okay, I'm looking at them, and they're parked in front of the fence there, and it's a relatively low fence.
Right.
Those trucks, either one of them, could drive across that fence if they wanted to.
Oh, yeah, easily. Actually, on this side, no doubt.
Now, granted, because the fence is a low fence and it's a metal fence, some damage is going to occur.
If they attempt
it. They may be successful in getting over, but not without causing some sort of damage. It can be minor damage where they just leave tire marks on the fence. Or it could be great damage where they tear the fence up or even tear up the truck.
So when we trespass, we can create damage.
We can cause harm. We can cause pain. We can cause damage. Sometimes the damage is irreparable. But it doesn't necessarily mean that it has to stop you.
That's it.
Beyond divorce, embracing change, setting healthy boundaries, getting a clear understanding of what those boundaries are and how to live within those boundaries. And you're right. It's not about stopping. It's about how do you come in.
Ooh, we're going to miss your conversations. Can you tell people what you're moving on to now?
Sure. I'm happy to do that. So I am moving on to an agency that is called the Center for Integrated Counseling and Psychology. It's a nonprofit agency that's based in Dallas, Texas, who has been around for actually since the 1960s. And so they're very much focused on bringing counseling from a biblical perspective and partnering with churches. And one of the things that they're doing is that they've recognized that a number of churches who have cultivated counseling centers in their churches have oftentimes struggled with the liability that goes along with running a counseling center. You are well aware of those liabilities. And so what the center has done, because these churches have a strong desire to see good, healthy counseling take place, they see the need for it. The center has identified and explored partnerships with churches to be able to set up counseling in these churches, where the churches will provide the space, the center will provide the services.
Got it.
Right.
So it's a partnership between the church and the center.
Absolutely. And so this is a path of ministry for me. This is really a journey in my mind of getting me back and closer to my clerical calling, along with my counseling calling, and allowing it to
blend them.
To come together. And so I'm looking forward to it. I'm excited about it. So this is really more of a calling in a direction, more so than it's just a choice and change.
Well, we're happy that you have the courage to take the call, because I know that, not to get too much into detail with our conversation, but I know how much Brighter Possibilities has meant to you. You've told me.
Absolutely.
And
to my family.
Thank you. Yeah, we love your family, but it's one of those things where it's, as we said, a bittersweet of you moving. You're not a replaceable piece. there are tons of people that I know that are out there, great counselors, can do phenomenal work. Our intent, somebody asked me, he goes, are you planning on replacing Jacobie? And I always correct him and say, I can't replace Jacobie. I said, I can find a therapist. Yeah. And they go, okay, that's what I meant. I'm sorry. That's what I meant. Because they don't realize how they said it.
Yeah.
And I remind them, like, this isn't about replacing a person.
Yeah.
Right. This is about continuing to find someone who wants to serve and provide to families that we want to help. And we're so excited for you, Dr. Robinson. And I appreciate you trusting me with that, with those conversations, with this transition, with everything. And it means a lot. I would like to ask you to, what do you want to leave our listeners with and say, hey, those people listening in, just remember this. As you're navigating divorce, as you're navigating co-parenting, as you're just trying to be a phenomenal parent to your kid, all these parents tell me they want to just love their kids. What would you love for them to say, hey, just remember this. As you're going through all that, I can't tell you what will change and how things will go.
Sure.
But as you're doing it, as you're navigating the process of this new normal, remember this.
All right.
What would you?
I would say there are two things.
Okay.
There are two things that I'd like for you to remember. They're not the only two, but the two that I'm going to share today. One is that you deserve and you are worthy of having peace. That's one. Two, you can have peace without robbing the peace of someone else.
Wow.
Cultivate your own peace. What I mean by that is that I think that a lot of the challenges that we see in navigating divorce is that we tend to seek satisfaction in someone else's dissatisfaction.
Yeah. Sure does feel that way.
Right. And so, and I would love for, it's particularly the adults, right? And the children, they will pick an adult and choose to follow,
Yeah.
But particularly the adults, is to see the other person satisfied and at peace just infuriates. It's like they don't deserve it. They were so wrong. They did me wrong. And they said they were sorry, but I don't think that they mean it. Whether they meant it or not, how can you have peace? Because what that means when you're still holding on to it is that you are more focused. You have given them your power, right? You have given them your power. You no longer have the power to cultivate your own peace because you've given it to them.
Because the peace I want is now dependent upon what's happening to them. That's not peace.
That's not peace at all.
And I think if you want progress, you have to go through peace.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Peace and progress are like cousins, aren't they? You will progress immensely when you can find peace, and peace can't be subject to the other party. Yeah.
And so this is the thing. This is the thing. He will keep you in perfect peace if you keep your mind stayed on him. And he provides a peace that surpasses all understanding. So what that means is that in the midst of this tumultuous experience, in the midst of the divorce, God can give me peace that doesn't match my circumstance.
I think the thing I would tell our listeners is you have to be open to accepting the peace that you can't see.
Absolutely. I love that.
Just because you can't see it, it doesn't mean it's not there. And just because it's not offered to you the way that you expect it, doesn't mean it doesn't exist. You've got to be willing to have the courage to embrace the peace that is presented to you without it looking the way you had hoped.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
I learned from you.
Yeah.
I'm learning. Okay.
It reminds me of something, right? I know we're over time, but it reminds me of something that I shared when I was teaching. I was a professor at the King's University. And one of the things that was a struggle for me was really kind of getting my ducks in the row.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I do want excellence. I do want fairness. I want wellness, but also, flexibility will allow it. If we're too rigid, right, we break.
That's why trees have to do this and wind. Otherwise
they snap.
That's right.
And so if you think about that mentally, if I'm too rigid mentally,
You're going to snap.
I'm going to snap.
Crackle and pop.
Yep.
That's what I'm going to miss. That stuff.
Faith and flexibility.
Faith and flexibility. Leave them with that.
Faith and flexibility.
That's what I'm talking about. For those of you here, thank you so much for being here. If you haven't already subscribed, as I said earlier in this podcast, please do so. Please give us some feedback. The goal is really to get this out to as many people as possible. We want people to hear this. We want feedback. We want to continue to serve and help because it's what we do here at Brighter Possibilities. So thank you for being here,
Absolutely.
Dr. Robinson. This isn't goodbye. This is until next time.
Till next time.
Okay.
Right. I appreciate the mutual trust.
Well, why would we have it any other way?
Otherwise, it wouldn't work.
Bingo.
We would not have been as successful as we were.
I agree. Thank you for being here. Keep moving forward, everyone.